Hello guys, and today we're going to talk about Beidou. Since we have a new event that gives us a free Beidou, then probably it might be our first Beidou, it might be a Constellation. For me it's C6, so I'm really hyped, but yeah, I thought it right now will be the best time to do a Beidou guide and explain why she's so broken and why she probably the most underrated unit in the game. So let's start. First of all, a lot of players think that Beidou is bad just because she's Electro. She's kinda, understandable, but at the same time, because Electro doesn't have any reactions that can multiply its damage, then the multipliers are usually very high, and that's the case for Beidou. So let's look at here normal attack. Normal attack, there is really nothing to talk about, and let's talk about here counter. Now her counter have 3 levels, and let me explain first of all. So whenever she uses her counter, she have a shield basically to absorb damage, as you can see, and it scales off your max HP. So at level 1, it's basically if you tap the counter and or you hold it and nobody hits you, then you will do 207% damage. Seems pretty low, right? Not that high. Also you will generate like 2 particles, not that good. Now at level 2, it means that you hold your counter and you got hit once. Then you add 272% damage on top of the 207% damage. That's how her counter works. It's additive, right? So you get 272% damage on top of the 270% damage. Let's get to about 480% damage at level 1, which you can see how it scales very high if you use your counter correctly, and also they will be bigger and you will generate more energy. Now level 3, which is basically perfect counter, is whenever you tap and an enemy hits you whenever you tapped the counter or you got hit twice, which will be 207% damage plus another 272% damage plus another 272% damage, which will get to like, I'm not sure, like 700 something, right? Which the scaling gets very crazy, very high. But even though you're doing more damage and it's more AoE, it also generates more energy. So it's basically, you need to get good with Beidou and her counters, but believe me, it's a very satisfying ability to pull off, and it's very fun to use as well. Now let's talk about here ultimate, here burst. So let me explain how it works. First of all, you tap it and then you do a 207% damage. Then you will, whenever you use normal attack or charge attack, you will proc a lightning discharge every second. So you can proc up to 15 lightning discharge, but you will probably not be able to do that. Probably you will proc around 10 to 12 lightning discharge with Beidou, since you can't really normal attack every second perfectly. So you will do 162% per lightning discharge. Now if you're against one enemy, then you will trigger only one lightning discharge. So if you're against 2 and you're at C0 or C1, the lightning discharge will bounce around enemies. As you can see, they create a lightning discharge that can jump between opponents. So it will jump between the first target and the second target, and will hit the first target twice and the second target once. So it can jump between enemies 3 times. So you can trigger lightning discharge every second, and it will hit 3 enemies or 3 times. So that's what, 450 plus damage every second for 15 seconds. Now if you have C2, it will add 2 additional bounces to your lightning discharge. So now you will do 5 lightning discharge if you have more than 1 enemy against you, which is basically every floor in the base. So you will do 163% times 5 every second. Now I hope you start to understand how crazy it is and how strong your burst is. and that's why it's 80 energy cost, you know, because she genuinely has one of the best bursts in the game. She also gives you damage reduction. If you want to know talent priority, it's burst, then here counter, then normal attacks. You can live at level 1 if you're not planning on normal attacking a lot, and you probably won't. So yeah, this passive basically makes you able to parry a perfect counter. Basically, if you tap and an enemy hits you, the moment you tapped it, then you will get a perfect counter, but it's not as hard as it seems like. It's basically like, you know, like iframing an attack with your dodge. It's, I won't say easy, right? But you know, it's not that hard to pull off. And this passive, basically, whenever you perfect counter, you'll get 15% attack speed and 15% more damage dealt to your normal and charge attacks. It's a nice passive. You're not going to normal attack with Beidou that much, but yeah, it's a nice passive to have. Let's now talk about constellations. So your first constellation basically gives here a shield whenever you use your burst. A nice constellation, you know, improved survivability. Here C2 is here best constellation, and as I explained, it gives here 2 additional jumps, which is insane for her burst. It's a very good constellation. If you have this constellation, then your Beidou is basically like almost at her full potential. A third constellation just level up to your counter. Fourth is pretty bad, just gives you 20% electro damage to your normal attacks if you're being attacked. It's okay, you know, not that good though, you won't use it that much, but it can be nice if you like try to break a beast mage shield and you don't have your normal attacks or any other unit that can really break it. Then yeah, it can be pretty nice. Here C5 is very good since it levels your burst, and here C6 decreases electro resistance by 15% whenever you have your burst up. Again, very good. So yeah, here constellation overall are very nice. Here C2 is the most important, then C5 and then C6. Now let's talk about artifacts. Here best artifact set is emblem set. Hold on, this one. Now why is it? Because Beidou has an 80 energy cost ult. She will need energy recharge, so this artifact set gives you 20% energy recharge and also will give you more burst damage the more energy recharge you have. Now don't think that now you need to stack like 200% energy recharge on Beidou. No, it doesn't matter if you use this set or not. You still want to aim for 130 to 140% energy recharge on Beidou if you use it with Fischl, which you will most likely will. So yeah, this artifact set already gives you 20% energy recharge, so you can, so instead of, you know, searching for energy recharge substats, you know, to your artifacts, you can now search for more crit rate, crit damage and attack percent walls, plus you get more burst damage. So if you don't have emblem or you don't want to farm emblem, then I would recommend to go for 2-piece noblesse and 2-piece thundering fury. But the difference between 2-piece noblesse, 2-piece thundering fury to 4-piece emblem is not that high at all, but it is there. It just ultimately comes down to substats. So if you already have a good 2-piece noblesse, 2-piece thundering fury, or 2-piece thundering fury, 2-piece glare, if you already have that, then just stick with it. You don't need to farm a whole new set again. But the set in general is good for a lot of characters, so yeah, I would recommend to farm it. But if you already have, you know, a good artifact set, then you can live without it. It's not a big deal. Now let's talk about weapons. So the first weapon I really want to talk about is Serpent Spine. Now Serpent Spine gives, as you can see, gives crit rate and also gives you more damage percent the more time you spend on the battle. This weapon is very good since Beidou can snapshot. If you don't know what snapshot means, it's basically whatever stats you had whenever you used an ability like Beidou's burst, right? This is the stat that you will have for the whole duration of the ability, no matter if you lose or gain stacks during the ability duration. So if you had like let's say I was in Bennett burst and I had like 2500 attack, my burst will act like I have 2500 attack for the whole duration, no matter if I switch out or not. That's how Snapshot basically works. So with Serpent Spine you can snapshot the attack buff. Also with Beidou you probably won't get hit because of your counter, right? You can just absorb damage and just dish it back, so you won't get hit. You can be with full stacks in Abyss, since you can just put here in your first slot and then just wait for the 5 stacks to stack, and you can start the floor with full stacks. So yeah, it's your best weapon if you use here with Bennett, so you can snapshot the attack buff. But if you don't use here with Bennett, then Wolf's Gravestone will be your best weapon, followed by the Unforged, which I assume most of y'all don't have that weapon, and Skyward Blade. It's not better than Serpent Spine, but it's also a very good weapon if you have it, because it gives you energy recharge. And let's now talk about some 4 stars. So if you have Ballistic Blade, it's a very good weapon as well, because it is already from Lewa, so you will already have 1 stack, and you probably will use Jingshu with here as well, so this is 2 stacks, and if you have 2 stacks it's a very solid weapon to have in Beidou, and especially with refinements. So if you don't have that, Archaic is also very nice. Basically the passive doesn't really help, but yeah, the passive is nice as well. Not that good, but you know, very high base attack with attack percent, it's good on Beidou. Now I use Sacrificial Greatsword. This weapon is not that good on Beidou as a main DPS, but can be pretty solid as a sub DPS, right? As a support it can be pretty solid because it gives energy recharge, so you don't really need to look for energy recharge in your substats. But Archaic is better than this weapon, so I kinda regret leveling this weapon. But there is a certain fish that will come, I'm not sure when, but probably next version, and it looks very decent on Beidou. So if you have the patience to wait until it comes out, then yeah, wait for this weapon and level it up. But if not, then go for Archaic if you're free to play. If you're planning on buying Blackleaf, I won't recommend it, since you probably won't snapshot any stacks, so it will just be a static weapon, and at that point it's not that good. It's just a weapon with crit damage substat. And if you're planning on crafting the new Claymore from Inazuma, it's not a good weapon since it gives too much energy recharge for Beidou, so I will generally probably recommend to just, again, stick with Archaic if you're free to play. If you can afford a battle pass, definitely go for Serpent Spine, and of course if you have any 5-star weapons, then use them, especially in Wolf's Gravestone. I forgot to mention that for Beidou, in substats you look for energy recharge, crit, and attack percent, of course, and you're going for attack percent, electro, and crit rate or crit damage, whatever gets you closer to the 1:2 ratio. Now let's talk about team comps for Beidou. Now Beidou has a lot of team comps that you can get into, because she can act as a DPS and as a sub DPS, so she's generally very good in most team comps, as long as she doesn't mess with your reactions, right? The one who is meant to be here is Zhongli, but I just don't have him, so just think of a Beidou as Zhongli. Basically you use Zhongli as your auto attacker, since Zhongli hits pretty fast, so he can proc a lot of discharges for Beidou, so you can trigger your ult a lot. And you know, Beidou official does a very good off-field DPS, and here the last slot can be whatever. You can use Xingshu, you can use Kaya to proc Superconduct for Zhongli, you can use Rosaria, it can really be whatever you want. It can be Bennett, doesn't matter, but as long as Zhongli is here, because Zhongli as a physical DPS is not that bad as people think, and yeah, he can enable Beidou very well. But in this comp, remember, Beidou does the most damage, so she's still the DPS. Another comp that you can run is Fireworks. I don't want to get to this comp too much because I still plan on doing a child guide, but basically kinda same reason as Zhongli. Child has very fast attack speed, so he can proc a lot of discharges, and also he can proc a lot of electro charge, which will trigger special passive as well. And yeah, they're just working very well together. And even in this comp, Beidou still does the most damage because, as I said, her burst is broken, and the last slot can be either Shingshu or Sucrose or Bennett, whatever you got available, like whatever you want. Bennett will be the best because both official and Beidou can snapshot his attack buff, and also Child can, you know, benefit from him, of course. Another comp is TF Bennett comp. So this comp is very good against heavy enemies because you will trigger a lot of overload and vaporize in this comp, while Bennett basically can use his E every second because the 4th TF set reduces his E cooldown to 1 second whenever you're in his burst, so you can spam his E, proc a lot of overloads and vaporize with him, while Beidou and Fischl snapshot his attack buff, and they all just doing very good, amazing off-field damage. And even in these comps, even though Bennett is the one that, you know, is on field, Beidou does the most damage in the comp. And also one of Beidou's best comps is Taser. Basically, Sucrose keeps the VV uptime on Electro and Hydro basically 100% of the time, while Fischl funnel for Beidou and does good off-field DPS. Beidou is the main DPS in the comp and her burst is insane, so he does a lot of damage, while Sucrose is the one that's normal attacking, and Shingshu with his ult, again very good sub DPS and also can do a lot of electro charge reactions, while Sucrose got buffed, well not Sucrose but Twelve got buffed, so it's very good to level your anemo characters that swirl a lot to level 90 and stack EM on them. And yeah, you can also use TTDS on Sucrose to buff Beidou for 48% attack to her ult since it's Snapshot. So yeah, again, very good comp, and you can see that there is no healer in this comp, but it's because Beidou and Shingshu, like, both of them have very high, you know, damage reduction, like 32% from Beidou, and then Shingshu gives you, well, I don't think that there is but he gives you a lot. He gives you a lot as well. So yeah, you get like 70% I think, or higher, depends on your talent levels from Beidou and Shingshu, and he also can, you know, kinda heal you. Shingshu also heals, so it's not that hard to stay alive in this comp. And also, this comp is only if you're going to speedrun or one rotation. Basically, Child works very well with jungling at Beidou, as you know, and both of them can snapshot, so both of them snapshot Bennett's attack buff, while Child just, you know, allow jungling to proc both overload and vape and a lot of electro charge to them. It's just a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage, but then you have the problem of funneling Beidou, which is why this comp, I don't really recommend it, but if you're going for a very fast clear, then yeah, this comp can work very well. You can also use this comp since Kaching is a sword user, so she attacks fast and she can funnel Beidou. Not as good as Fischl, but yeah, it still kinda works unless you have C2, and if you have C2 Kaching, then you're basically as good as Fischl, if not better. But if you don't have C2, then Beidou need more energy recharge, but this comp also can work. So I hope that this guide helped you. I hope it convinced you to build Beidou, because he's truly amazing, underrated, and one of the best in the game. One of the best units in the game. And she's also so fun to play. Like, like she's just amazing. So yeah, I hope I helped. I hope you enjoyed the guide, and I'll see you in the next one.